D Sports Racing took off in 2007 with pole sitter J.R. Osborne taking a commanding lead as the cars dove down into turn 1. Chris Farrell challenged Mark Jaremko in the number 2 for 3rd, but a few turns later, Farrell lost it and dropped several positions. Then the epic battle began. Jaremko knocked on the door of Jean-Luc Liverato, who passed him at the start. Then the 8 came back. Jaremko darted out again to take the position. Liverato pulled alongside, but Jaremko slammed the door. At the end, J.R. Osborne took the win with Mark Jaremko hanging on to 2nd. All the work and development Osborne put into his car over the summer paid off big time. There's a class in SCCA national competition that is rapidly becoming one of the fastest ones. And I don't necessarily mean straight line speed, I mean overall lap time. With cornering loads approaching 3 Gs, these cars are awesome. They're not formula cars, they're D Sports racers. J.R. Osborne is the defending national champion in the D Sports Racer class, and he has an admirable record at the runoffs. 2 appearances, 2 poles, and 1 victory. He'll see if he can make it 2 victories in 2008. Mark Jaremko has 4 national championships to his record and a perfect season in 2008. 4 wins in 4 events and a track record at every track that he's competed on. John Staudiker is doing battle in his own chassis, the Staudiker chassis. He's a Great Lakes Division champion and a perfect season as well. 4 wins in 4 events, 4 track records, and all in a chassis of his own design and construction. For more on the high-tech D-Sport racing class, we'll check in with Dorsey Schrader.
Jean-Luc Liverato is the Southeast Division champion, and he has done a lot of racing this year. In fact, he's amassed 7 wins so far. He was a podium finisher last year here at the runoffs with a 3rd place finish, but he'd like to make 2008 his national championship year. Chris Farrell has run this car in 2 different classes. He's had 5 wins in the combined classes so far this year. He also would like to be the champion. Now, with a name like Ken Terrell, you've got to be a race car driver. Ken's had a great year. He's had 4 wins so far and a pair of track records. The D Sports Racing National Championship is up next.
The SCCA National Championship Runoffs will crown Sports Car Club of America's Club Racing National Champions for the 45th time in 2008. The best amateur drivers from across North America have gathered at Heartland Park, Topeka's 2.5-mile road course for 3 years now for what is often referred to as the Olympics of motorsports. And up next, the gold medal in D Sports Racing is up for grabs on a beautiful fall morning, and the title fight should be a good one. 18 laps of high-tech, high-speed excitement coming up. Hello everyone, I'm Brian Till along with Dorsey Schrader, Chris Neville, and Mike Johnson. We'll bring you the action here today. And Dorsey, I say high-tech, high-speed. What does that mean here at Heartland Park?
Well, Brian, I'll tell you what, a long front straightaway leading you through this series of corners, that's all high-speed stuff. And you talk about cornering loads and the amount of downforce that these cars make, they'll be really good there. On this end of the racetrack, where the speeds are slower, it's going to be a little bit more dicey over there.
And the evolution of the D Sports Racing class has come a long, long way, Dorsey.
Yeah, no doubt about it. These are purpose-built race cars, full composite bodies. This used to be more of a backyard kind of a class where you could build your own car. Not anymore. Things are high-tech. You said it before.
And high speed. Let's head straight down to pit lane and get the stories from down there. And first up, Mike Johnson.
Well, qualifying second is Tom Boots, and another one of these beautiful store chassis. Now, after the 2nd round of qualifying, he was sitting 5th. The 3rd round, he put this sucker on the front row. Now, what he said was, I'm just still figuring out how to drive this thing. Every session, it's going faster and faster. I just got to figure out how to drive the downforce. He's only had this car for 4 races. He just keeps moving to the front. Chris, what do you have?
Tom Gonzalez starts 16th in his 2nd runoffs appearance. Last year, everything went way wrong when the car caught fire. This year in qualifying, he did experience a fuel penalty, so he's starting a little bit further back than expected. So look for Tom to move towards the front.
Great race cars, Dorsey, and a great class. And one of the things that you'll notice as you sit at home and watch this, a lot of black cars out there. And the reason why is paint is heavy.
Yeah, exactly. And these cars can weigh in at 900 pounds. And that paint is about 100 pounds of paint by the time you paint one of these carbon fiber chassis. That weighs too much, so you're going to have a lot of flat black cars out there.
Well, you think about the power plant in these machines. They're motorcycle engines in a lot of the purpose-built cars like the store chassis. We've seen 670cc turbo engines this year, 1000cc normally aspirated engines, but the horsepower that they produce, sometimes close to 200 at 900-pound minimum weight, close to 200 horsepower, that's more power to weight ratio than an Atlantic car.
The majority of these guys are running Suzuki 1000cc engines, and it was explained to me the stock one is quite reliable, but it's about 35 horsepower less than if you ramp it up or build the engine. When you build it engine and you ramp it up, it breaks sometimes, so you have that choice to make.
You're looking for that happy median in between as you take a look at the cars sitting on the grid, and these things are sleek. And talk about sleek, they also produce a lot of downforce. Dorsey, we're talking horsepower and weight, but with the downforce, that's what really holds these things down.
You're talking over 3 Gs for sure of downforce. Some say approaching 4 on certain racetracks. Well, that whole segment of the racetrack I talked about, turn 1 through 6, those are high-speed sweepers. This car will love it here.
Yeah, you think about turn 3 here, which is that big carousel. A lot of downforce, a little bit of weight, some good sticky tires, and you'll get great cornering speeds, great cornering Gs through there. We'll be back for the D Sports Racing National Championship from Heartland Park, Topeka, right after this. Make sure you stick with us. It should be a good one. The SCCA National Championship runoffs from Heartland Park, Topeka. D Sports Racing Gold on the line coming up next. The field gathering up behind the pace car on the pace laps. It's a nice, cool morning. The sun is shining. A great day for racing at Heartland Park. And the D Sports Racing National Championship should be spectacular. And I say it's a beautiful day, Dorsey. The sun is shining. That means the track's going to warm up, but the air temperature right now still reasonably cool. What's that going to mean for tires?
Well, I think these cars, because of their downforce, will come in pretty quickly, Brian. The first, they get 2 pace laps here instead of just 1, so that gives all the drivers a chance to really scrub those tires and do some burnouts, get the rears up to temp. So I think we're going to get a green flag and have wide open racing for the entire day.
We'll take a look at the field. Mark Jaremko on the pole. Now, Jaremko has 4 national championships to his credit. Last year here, he finished second. You look at J.R. Osborne, last year's champion, the defending champion. He'll roll off third. Osborne won the June sprints. He's looking for that triple crown. And in today's class, 8 of 9 divisional champions. 9 divisions in the SCCA competition. 8 of those champions are here today to do battle. So you look through the second 10 divisional champions back there in the 15th spots with Colburn, and then Maxwell and Todd down in 19th and 20th. They too are divisional champions. So a lot of talent in this field. It should be a great, great race like we keep saying. Let's head back down to pit lane and Mike.
Well, with all these new chassis in D Sports Racing, you'd think that the young guys would want to be driving these cars, coming out of go-karts or Formula cars. But in 9th place, we have Bob Gardner, 70 years old. Started racing MGAs, used to race the runoffs at the Riverside, and now he says, you know what, I love sports racers. As long as I can be competitive, I'm going to keep racing. Chris?
Well, Mike, 23-year-old Perry Richardson, starting 8th today, is at his first runoffs. And last year was his first year of racing. He chose to cut his teeth in a Spec Racer Ford because it's a momentum car, the perfect stepping stone to a D Sports racer. Even though he's a rookie, he's looking for a win.
It's a momentum car. It teaches you to drive smooth, Brian, and we both drove that car as well. These are momentum cars as well because they only have that 1000cc engine. They don't have a lot of power, so you have to keep your speed up through all these different corners. And I said this used to be like a home-built class. Well, those store chassis, my friends, are $90,000 a piece. So that might be a reason why real young guys aren't in this class.
Well, but we talked about John Staudacher at the start there in the Open, and Staudacher is a guy who has designed and built his own car, and it's pretty impressive. He's had a spectacular season, undefeated in a home-built car. So while you want to buy one of those purpose-built ones, well, guess what? If you're smart enough, you can still build a fast one. Mike?
Well, Dorsey had mentioned engines earlier in the broadcast, and I talked to a lot of the guys down on the grid, and they said, you know, they're all actually very concerned. They're running 13,000 RPMs, 13.2 in some of these motors, at a 16-to-1 compression ratio. Already, Ken Tyrrell's gone through his 3 engines, and J.R. Osborne's on his 4th, trying to develop that turbo. So engine reliability still could be a pretty big key in this race.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about exactly, Mike. The fact that when you build these things up and you get that compression way up like that, they are very susceptible to breaking crankshafts and things. You know, you don't have to run that Suzuki engine either. You can run other engines.
You see J.R. Osborne there on the screen, the candidate for the Triple Crown. That is winning your division, so claiming a championship in your division, and then also the June sprints. And if you can claim the runoffs, you can win the Triple Crown. Chris?
Well, Brian, earlier this fall, we were at Petit Le Mans watching the LMP2 cars go through turn 1 almost flat. Talking to some of these guys who compete at Road Atlanta, they're saying, you know what, and these cars were almost flat too, just a little bit of a lift. So imagine being a club racer and being able to go through that corner about as fast as a David Brabham or some of the guys in an Acura or a Penske Porsche.
Yeah, the difference, of course, is the straightaway speed. These cars with the little engines don't get big top numbers, but as far as cornering speeds go, nothing corners any better than one of these.
Well, yeah, and the cornering G's are right there with an LMP2 car, so it's an impressive deal. You look at these guys, the G-forces that they experience. Think about your head that weighs about 12 or 13 pounds with a 3-pound helmet on it. Now we're up to 16, 17 pounds. Multiply that by 3, and that's what your head weighs going through one of those corners at 3 Gs.
In fact, they really slowed the cars down and wanting a slow start.
Jaremko leading the field down very slowly, as you pointed out. Tom Boots alongside. Boots finished 10th here last year. J.R. Osborne, defending champion, right there behind Jaremko. So this will be interesting. A lot of black cars up front, like we talked about. Nobody wants that extra weight of the paint, just little stripes here and there. The field already, you see Osborne peeking out over there to driver's left.
Nope.
The starter says, not going to do it, boys.
And that was that 3 wide, 3 abreast at the start. The starter says, no, it's 2 by 2, boys.
And a good call by the starter here at the runoffs. He says, nope, line them up. We'll do it again. D Sports Racer. They'll try for a second time at the green flag when we come back to Heartland Park. Stick around.
Racing is filled with all kinds of important numbers. 500 horsepower, 5 poles, 10 wins, a 1 minute 22-second lap. And what about the all-important number on the side of your car? Dean, you've got the number 0 on your car. What is the significance?
Well, started racing in 72. 1975, I bought a showroom stock car. Called the registrar looking for a number nobody used. She recommended 0. I was very lucky and lapped the entire field that first race. Coming home so very, very cocky, I was swell-headed. Well, my son was watching a cartoon character called Zero My Hero on Multiplication Rock. And he said, Zero My Hero, just like you, Dad. 35 years later, I'm still Zero My Hero.
Zero My Hero. There he is right there. And, you know, anytime you can come to the runoffs, people might recognize that as a car that looks like a Sports 2000, a very similar chassis, a little bit older, but still. Dean Todd bringing up the back of the field. We talked about different chassis. What about different tires, Mike?
Well, we've seen the Hoosier tire dominate a lot of the races so far into the runoffs, but on the pole, we've got Mark Jaremko on Goodyears, and J.R. Osborne is also on Goodyears with Boots, the only Hoosier tired up car up front, stuck right in the middle. So, you know, we've seen some of the tires build up quick early, some of them last longer. You know, that still could be a pretty big determining factor at the end of the race.
Be interesting to see. Good point, Mike. It's not only a chassis battle, but a tire battle as well. So Goodyear on the pole, Hoosier on the outside. So we'll have to see if this man, he's the controller of this event right now, because the green flag is in his hand, the official starter at the SCCA National Championship runoffs. The field not aligned the last time by. We'll see what happens this time. Jaremko.
Oh, they're bumping already.
Bumping already, saying, all right, let's get it on. And the green flag waves, and we're racing in D Sports Racing. Look at the jump that Osborne got on your left of the screen there. He and Jaremko
they're rubbing.
the wheel.
They're rubbing down into turn 1, Brian. High speed here.
Oh, and he almost pushes Jaremko into Boots, and Osborne leaps to the lead.
Very aggressive start for Osborne, no question about it. That side-by-side rubbing, you know, that's a fast section of the racetrack.
Even after that first wave off, Osborne not being a whip and jumped straight to the front from his third place qualifying position. Says, thank you, boys, I will take that. Remember, he won his division, he won the June sprints, and he wants another runoffs victory, and not taking him long to put some distance in between himself and second place.
Stupendous start, man. I mean, he just completely nailed it at the start, and look at the gap he's got.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how long it's going to take tires to come up to temperature for Boots and Jaremko. But right now, J.R. Osborne pulling out big time on the first lap.
Boy, look at the grip they get through the middle of the corners. They got huge corner speed. Here's your replay. Now watch to your left side of the screen.
These boys getting racy already.
Yeah, they're
bumping Jaremko.
There he goes, pops out, great timing there. Now they're going to lock up side to side.
Look at that. Look at that. Great start by Osborne. Takes over the point. Let's look a little further back. Osborne leading. Boots there in second place, but Jaremko says, nope, I want it back. Slides along the inside. That's at the end of the back straightaway, Dorsey, I think in turn 10, and then cuts across into 11.
One thing you can do when you got a lot of downforce is you can make outside passes where you normally wouldn't go with a normal car. These cars have so much grip they can move around the racetrack. This car a little bit slow. The 78 Dave Knack.
Which perhaps he went off.
Oh, he's been off,
grass.
yeah. That car looked a little goofy back there. I think it's just because he was in the grass.
He didn't come to pit road, so Knack stays on track. But you see a lot of that grass. Look at J.R. Osborne. Looking for not only the win, but once again, the Triple Crown. This car just flying. Osborne running this exact same car in two classes, D Sports Racing and C Sports Racing. So he's willing to take the little car up a class, and he does well there. In fact, at the June Sprints, he finished in front of all the other C Sports Racing cars.
A lot of guys do that, run the multiple class. Now, C Sports Racing allows you a larger engine, but these cars are so darn good. You know, you could just up it to a C Sports Racer without changing anything and have a good shot of being able to win. Oh, are his belts loose? Look at that second place car.
Flopping,
Almost looked like his shoulder harness belts came.
It's Perry Richard in the 32, the second car in line there, the white and burgundy colored car. Richard in a battle with Allen in the 87.
I don't know if you ever had that happen, Brian, in an open wheel car like this, but I've had the belt come loose, and it'll beat you. Those things beating out the outside of the cockpit.
Well, on top of that,
thing.
you can't stay in the seat if
no.
something like that. So perhaps just something loose inside the cockpit. I don't think it's his belt, or we'd see him on pit road. There's no way you could drive the car. You see the number 4 flash by Gardner, and really that front wing moving around a lot on the front of Gardner's car there in the number 4. Piece of bodywork back there in the back door, so you see right there on that rear wing end plate.
Looks like somebody got together with him just a little bit.
Damage there as well. The 49 flashes by.
I agree with that front. That's an add-on front wing. That's a stored chassis, but that front wing was certainly jiggling around quite a lot.
Richard Colburn in the 97, running 14th right now, trying to move his way up to the front. A great D Sports Racing battle going on from Heartland Park, Topeka. J.R. Osborne controls the field right now, but we still have a long way to go. 3 laps in the books, working lap 4 and 14 to go. The SCCA National Championship Runoffs on speed. This year, over 500 drivers will battle for 25 class crowns and the right to put their name in the record books as national champion. The win here is a lifelong dream for many of these competitors. Today, the fight is for D Sports Racing Gold, and to take it, the champion will not only have to best the rest of the field, but the challenging 2.5 miles of Heartland Park, Topeka as well. D Sports Racing underway.
There's our boy, Dean Todd, Zero My Hero.
And Zero My Hero about to
get lapped.
J.R. Osborne about to come up and begin lapping cars already, Chris.
J.R. Osborne right now running away, and one of the reasons is he's running a softer tire on the front end of that car. I checked in with a couple of the teams. J.R. decided to go with a softer compound than Mark Jaremko, so Mark's going to take a few more laps to get some temperature and pressure in those front tires and should be a little bit more consistent over the long haul. So hopefully in a few more laps we'll see that gap start to close up.
Well, his corner speeds are just unbelievable. I mean, that car is hooked to the racetrack.
When you talk about on rails, I'm telling you, that car looks hooked up. Now, a little slide right there.
But you see the correction? Uh-oh, here's trouble.
The problem for the 04
is backed into the wall. Looks like his wing is completely knocked. So that might bring out a full course caution.
It's Brian Lindstrom. He is a runoffs rookie. He started in 11th.
Well, he's out of his car. You can see that, but I can see that he's backed into the wall. We'll take a look, see what happens here. Just spins on his own, Brian, and he does back it into the wall pretty hard.
Hopefully it just bent up the wing a little bit. Here's another look. Believe that is in turn 11.
Broke free on him.
When you can see the
Oh, that's a
racetrack
big
goes
hit, though.
slightly downhill on the exit of that corner, and there's grass there. The grass still a bit damp this morning
Sure.
because of the dew, and it's the old gray and green rule, isn't it?
Yeah,
it works better on the gray than it does on
He
the
got
green.
that thing in the grass and said, whoa! There's no stopping it.
Kevin Allen leads this group, the battle for 7th. Perry Richard behind him, and then Gardner. They run in that order.
Piece of bodywork that you saw before is still flopping on that car. It's a wing end plate. I don't think it's, you know, a damage. Or
Then you saw the 97, Richard Colburn flashes by. Colburn running 13th.
Now, these
Bill
are some
Gidron
of-
behind him.
these are some of the older chassis that used to be prevalent here. You know, you had some of these Cheetahs, the Mystery, the Legrand that we saw before. And these stores have obsoleted everything before them, quite honestly.
Bill Gidron behind Colburn right now, beginning to close down on him a little bit, so this could turn into a good fight. There it is, right there at the apex of 5, trying to work his way by, and Colburn saying, nope, not now, not this time. Tom Boots runs 3rd. Boots started outside the front row on the Hoosier tires. Remember, Jaremko and Osborne on Goodyear, so it'll be interesting to see how the Hoosiers go as this race moves on.
Full ground effect cars, Brian. There's no question. Look at the speed they can carry through these corners.
Chris Farrell in the 58 just flashing through the screen. Farrell running 4th. Tom Boots trying to close down on Mark Jaremko, but we got a report that the officials looking at Jaremko's car for potentially losing a little fluid, and if Tom Boots has a radio in his car, you know what he's saying. Hey, I got stuff on my visor here. Maybe the car in front of me's got a problem.
Now, we haven't seen any smoke or any telltale signs of fluid coming out of that car. I mean, it could be an overflow on its radiator, fill tank, or any number of things, but the corner crews keep an eye on that, and if they see something leaking, they'll call it into race control so race control can have a look at it. They want to keep this racetrack dry and safe.
Boots look like he's running a bit softer chassis than perhaps Osborne. I saw the body of that car actually have some roll in it, Dorsey, and it looks like J.R. Osborne's car very stiff.
Well, you see when he goes through turn 1 and turn 2 where it's bumpy, the car really gets unsettled. And if it's leaking anything, it's vaporizing it.
J.R. Osborne holding on to 6.5 seconds worth of lead here in the D Sports Racing National Championship, but we are far from over. Stick around on the other side of this. D Sports Racing National Championship. At the drop of the green, there wasn't a drop of the green. It was a wave off on lap 1.
And there was a right wave off. Now lap 2, they
here
get
we
the
go.
start, and it is 3 abreast, and Robin is racing.
I think these boys were racy from the time they rolled out onto the grid. Rubbing wheels. You saw J.R. Osborne make the move into 1. He took the lead, but look at the battle for 2nd between Boots and Jaremko. Boots in the 36 has to give it up. Jaremko takes the spot. Then a problem for the 04 of Brian Lindstrom. Backs it into the wall there. His day is done, and all too soon for his liking. And right now, J.R. Osborne having it all his way. 7 laps in the books. Working lap 8, and it's about to be 8 in the books, and he's going for that Triple Crown, remember?
Yeah, he already has won his division. He won the June sprints, and now it looks like if he doesn't have any trouble, he could very well be the winner here today.
Look at that car. We've seen it loose maybe once or twice.
It's
but
stiff because look how when he hits those bumps, I mean, it really unsettles. Yet the car has got huge grip.
And like we were saying, Dorsey, when I was looking at the car of Tom Boots, you look at the front end and it has a little more body.
Oh, side by side through 1. That was high-speed stuff.
That's Chris Farrell in front, I believe. The black store with the lime green numbers on it. Yes, it is, the 58.
And Ken Terrell in the 12. And they duked it out, I mean, at the apex of turn 1, which is very fast. They were dead side by side.
Farrell trying to move his way up as well. He finished 3rd last year, so he wants to be back on that podium, but he's got some work to do. He's about 5 seconds behind Tom Boots, so he needs to move his way forward. Farrell on the Hoosier tires as well. Maybe it's just taking a while for those Hoosier tires to come in.
Well, we do, like Mike Johnson said at the beginning of the show, we do have a bit of a tire war going on here. And we've seen that out throughout the weekend that the Goodyears and the Hoosiers don't necessarily respond exactly the same.
Seems like Farrell pulling out from Terrell a little bit, and when you got a name like Ken Terrell, you better be fast, because if you think about Formula One, they're a pretty famous man with the same name over there, and it's actually pretty interesting. Ken met Mr. Terrell at the Detroit Grand Prix in 1985, and guess who sent him to driving school? He said, "You're going to have a name like mine, you're going to learn to drive a race car," and he actually sent him to driving school.
He held the signboard for Martin Brundle and met Ken Terrell, Martin Brundle, and so forth. He said it really inspired his ability to want to be a race car driver.
Chris Farrell flashes by. J.R. Osborne continuing to lead in his store chassis. Chris?
Well, Lee Store is the mastermind behind that store, and you've built about 100 cars since 2001. This is the second generation car running up front. What have some of the improvements been?
The second generation car came out in 2005. It has a lot more downforce, and we use the latest Suzuki motors built by George Dean. In fact, this weekend we're the fastest cars of any class at the track.
What does it take to get a car out to the racetrack and then run it on the weekend?
It's about 70,000 with the motor ready to go.
And then operating costs?
It's about 2,000 if you buy new tires every weekend.
Now, Dorsey Schrader's been talking about getting back behind the wheel. Any chance he can run for the factory?
Hey, we'd love to talk to him.
There you go, Dorsey. I'm getting some work for you next year, but remember, I take 20%.
I got you, but I don't think my old neck could hold up to 4 Gs.
I was going to say, your body can't withstand the cornering loads at this point in time.
Too much punishment to the old.
J.R. Osborne taking that store chassis to the front. Operating costs can be okay as long as you're not going through 3 or 4 engines like J.R. Osborne has this weekend. But right now, that Suzuki in the back of that store chassis purring along, and Osborne putting on a clinic here. J.R. Osborne continues to lead D Sports Racing. The SCCA National Championship Runoffs, the fastest class of 25 on the racetrack right now. J.R. Osborne in D Sports Racing controls the field as he has since the drop of the green.
I'll tell you what, I've been around SCCA racing all of my life, and you could not have told me that a D Sports racer would be the fastest car of all cars. I would never have bought that when you're looking at things like GT1 cars, Trans Am cars. You're looking like Formula Atlantic, and these cars are the very fastest thing on this racetrack this weekend.
Well, they really have the best of everything. They've got a great horsepower to weight ratio, great downforce. They create almost twice as much downforce as the car weighs, which means much like an Indy car, if you can get to that level of downforce, you could literally run it upside down.
We talk about that all the time because nobody's built a loop-to-loop bridge yet, you know, where you go all the way around the thing like you do on a roller coaster. But these cars could run inverted once they get up to speed.
Let's try not to run inverted today. Craig Mendenhall in the number 88, allowing the faster cars to go by. Perhaps a bit of a problem, but Mendenhall, this is a great example, Dorsey. That is the D Sports racer of old, the Cheetah chassis, something that we were used to seeing. Like you said, I would have never believed it. It does not have ground effects tunnels underneath it.
And that car is not that old. You're talking about something that's probably 5 or 6 years old and was competitive. But once this store chassis came out, like I said before, it was like when I was in Formula Atlantic and it was a flat bottom Atlantic car, they came out with a ground effect car, and all the cars in front of that were obsolete instantly.
You see the 87 of Kevin Allen going by him. Allen, one of those guys that has built a very fast car in his backyard, waves to Mendenhall, says thank you very much for letting me go, and he flashes by.
I think that's cool. I think that you should be able to build your own car in your backyard and run it, you know. That's what this class used to be all about, but it's different now. Things have evolved, and this has become now the fastest and the most downforce chassis that there is.
Traffic, Mendenhall getting out of the way of this battle for 7th. Perry Richard in the white with the burgundy on the side. Still that end plate flapping back there, and that belt or whatever it is that's loose. And then the 4 of Gardner, RJ Gardner, right behind, trying to move his way to the front. And remember, that's a store chassis that's been modified a little bit, one of the first generations, and he's added that little wing to the front to try to get a little more downforce.
I think what that belt is, Brian, is the cinch down for his strap. It's an awful long belt, and it's hanging out the back. I'm surprised the corner workers really haven't been going on about that.
Tell you what, he can hear that.
Oh, it's hitting his helmet. Yeah. I had one, I'm telling you, it's really distracting. The thing just beating your shoulders and beating the side of your head all.
Coming up now on the 78, trying to work their way by another lap car, David Knack. That's an older store, the store
traffic
01.
here.
And Knack,
Oh, another accident
a
here.
problem for Mendenhall. We had talked about what a great job he was doing, having a good runoffs, enjoying his time on the racetrack and staying out of the way of the leaders. But a problem, I don't know if he tried to get out of the way, Dorsey, and got into the gray.
Could. I mean, you can see here that he's made contact on the wall. And I said last time that there would probably be a full course. There never was, so now I'm not going to say it this time. See what else.
Mendenhall climbing from his chassis, the Cheetah, the SR1. A disappointing day for him, but not for this man, at least not yet. J.R. Osborne having it all his way from Heartland Park, Topeka, the 45th running of the SCCA National Championships.
In D Sports Racing, you need to have a great chassis to be up front, but you don't necessarily need to buy one. Adam Malley and Kevin Allen decide to build their own chassis, the Malin Alley. Now, why did you guys go this route versus buying your own car?
Well, you know, probably mostly because we're hard-headed. We don't like to do what everybody else is doing. We like to find another way to go about it and maybe find a better way. We felt like they were leaving performance on the table, so we designed and built our own car.
Well, now you guys are actually old production car drivers. What are you doing in a sports racer?
Well, I mean, the classes aren't as far apart as you might think. The production rules are pretty open, let you do a lot of stuff that you want to do. But, we like the free reign, if you will, of the sports racing category.
All right, well, both these guys are podium finishers and winners in production. Now they're going for the first win in their own ride.
Kevin Allen having a good run right now, running in 6th. You see him right there. He finished 2nd in GP in 1999 in G production. Like Mike was saying, certainly knows how to make a car go fast. And for these guys to get out of a production car into one of these, it's got to be a ball. It's a completely different world.
Well, it's obvious they're not clueless. I mean, this is a good car here that they've built from scratch, and I take my hat off to them because, think about the complexity of trying to do what they've done. Now, of course, it's a tube-frame chassis. You can see that, so that part's easy. But building this bodywork without the use of a wind tunnel, it's trial and error. You got to have a pretty good head on your shoulders to make that all come together.
Still looking at Perry Richard, and you see that belt. That's probably, like you were saying, just the adjuster on the belt itself. When you put it in the car and you set the length of them, just a little extra sticking out there.
But how annoying. I'm telling you, he'll never do that again. I'm sure usually it's taped down or something to the forward belt, but it's come loose.
It's come loose. You also see that end plate there off the wing where it attaches to the bodywork in the back.
Ooh, outside pass.
Man, 97, obviously with a bit of a problem right there. Richard Colburn we had talked about earlier, but Colburn really off the pace. You see him dropping back. So problems for Colburn as Perry Richard flashes by.
Oh, the wing's damaged on that one store. You see it? He's made contact. So we've got damage right on the front of that car, and that now they should give a black flag for that because that's a really dangerous situation.
That's R.J. Gardner. Gardner had been having a good battle with Perry Richard in the 32, but perhaps got caught up behind the 97.
Boy, see if that wing comes off and it's where it's sitting, it's going to go right over the top of that car.
14 laps in the books. Now 15 in the books. Working 16.
Got 3 to go, and you got a wing loose like that. Now maybe they'll let him run it out.
And Dean Todd off the pace as well. We saw him earlier.
I think Dean just moved over, saw these cars coming, and just didn't want to interfere.
And that's one of the great things about the runoffs. You earn the right to be here, but not everybody shows up thinking I can win this thing. They come because they're proud of their achievements throughout the year, and they come here, and when they know the fast guys are coming, they let them go. So some great driving, some really heads-up driving by many of the competitors. Talk about heads-up driving. J.R. Osborne from the drop of the green. What a warrior he is. He's taking it to everybody, and he leads in D Sports Racing, looking for another national championship. The D Sports Racing National Championship from Heartland Park, Topeka. J.R. Osborne coming up, beginning to work through lap traffic, or I should say continuing to work through lap traffic.
Trouble here, he didn't see him.
Man.
I was afraid of that. Charles Smith in the number 6 didn't see that the leader was coming through.
Well, Smith had the 78 of Knack right behind him, Dave Knack, and I think he was paying attention to that. J.R. Osborne closing the distance so quickly, probably snuck in there.
Here you get a good look at it. 3 wide. He just didn't see him. Didn't see him, and that's the problem. When you've got a ground effects car like that, you can just drive all around these older style cars.
close moments there for J.R. Osborne.
You wouldn't expect to be getting passed around the outside, but these cars can go anywhere with that kind of grip.
And there's the 97 once again. Richard Colburn now being passed. The problems he's had beginning to slow, as we had talked about. And then the 87, Kevin Allen in that home-built chassis, and right behind him, the 32 of Perry Richard.
They've done a really good job with that car. It's a good-looking car for a home-built. You wouldn't even expect it to be, you know, a home-built car. It looks like a production piece.
Very well done. Looks very aerodynamic, but, you know, hard to do battle with a guy like Lee Storr, who you got to believe doing all that design work on a CAD CAM system. And
been in a wind tunnel more than likely and tested all those different theories. This car, I guarantee you, hasn't been in a wind tunnel.
Now, you know how you wind tunnel a car like that? You spray oil on the rear wing, and you go drive it, and you see where the oil goes, and you see how it flows over the body, and what kind of a trail did it make. Little WD-40 makes for a great wind tunnel work when you get out there on the racetrack.
Tape little pieces of yarn all over the front of it and see how it blows.
Yep. Last spot on the podium. This is the fight for it right here. The 36, Tom Boots. The 58, Chris Farrell right behind him. Farrell was third last year. He wants to get back by.
Farrell really working hard now to try to get underneath. Maybe right here.
Both of these store chassis on the Hoosier tire. Both of them running the Suzuki power plant. So
they're going to get the white flag with 1 lap to go. So whatever happens, it's going to happen here.
17 laps in the books. Working the final lap. Farrell trying to get back to where he finished in 2007.
Good run here off of turn 2. He's going to run it down the inside of turn 3.
Oh, he takes a sniff to the inside, and he pulls it off. Great move.
Boy, he decides to give that a twirl. He makes it work.
Great driving there, but it is not over. Still a half lap to go. Farrell takes the position, but Boots trying to come back.
Yeah, he's got the other part of the racetrack. Oh, not here.
Oh, he turns him.
Turned him around. I would think that'll get a reprimand. I would just have to believe it would.
Well, right now, Chris Farrell just needs to remain calm because this may be taken care of after the race. Farrell back underway. We'll see how that turns out. That'll be taken care of after the race, but the race on the track is going to end right here. J.R. Osborne down the front straightaway. The checkered flag waves. Osborne salutes his crew, flashes down the front straightaway. Another national championship and the Triple Crown. You saw the vibration there. Nothing wrong with the car, Dorsey. I think a lot of pickup offline.
That's what he did. Yeah, he went over by the pit wall and picked up a lot of spent rubber, and it just got him out of balance.
But this battle's not over with either. This is the battle for 6. Kevin Allen in the chassis of his own design and construction. Perry Richards still trying to hold on right behind him in the 32. The battle for 6. This one has waged all day long. And it looks right now like Kevin Allen has the legs. He's got to negotiate a couple more corners down this back straight through 10. The left-hander at the end.
Car's working really good, Brian.
They've done a great job. Like you were saying, Dorsey, anytime you can design one yourself,
build it,
and then go run with factory cars, you're doing a good job. And hats off to Kevin Allen and his crew for the job that they have done through turn 14 onto the front straightaway. Kevin Allen will flash down across the line and take 6th. You see the 49.
It's got some
car a little further back down. Bill Gindren.
49's either leaking some oil or something. It's lucky the race is over. He got it to the checkered flag, but there was something wrong with that car.
And a good run by these two drivers as well. Good fights all around the racetrack, but the celebration sits right there in that cockpit. J.R. Osborne takes the victory, and their celebrations on pit lane as well. Mike?
Well, Doug Felch is JR's crew chief, and your boy wasted no time taking the lead. I mean, he was almost by him at the start-finish line.
Yeah, he always gets a great start. He's real committed right out of the chute, and we had I think our tires came up a little quicker than some of the competition.
Well, you know, Mark had such a great qualifying lap. We're kind of surprised to see JR pull away so quick. Where were those times coming from?
Well, we always knew we had it in the car. We just never got a chance to show it during qualifying. We had a lot of mechanical issues that we've been sorting through, and we're real happy to be able to get it done during the race.
Well, Doug is on his way down to the victory lane to be with his driver. Guys?
Great job by J.R. Osborne. You heard him talk about hard work and development and all that. You don't just find this speed. It doesn't seek in by osmosis. You've got to work hard for it, and that's exactly what this team has done. Let's take a look for this battle.
Yeah.
Third, the 36.
Boo-hoo here. He just takes him out, unfortunately.
Tom Boots into the back of Chris Farrell.
Shoveled him out of the way, and like I said, that didn't go unnoticed, I would think.
Yeah, I'm sure that one is going to be addressed afterwards. J.R. Osborne, big celebration, and why not? A national championship, an SCCA Triple Crown. We'll be back for all the interviews right after this. J.R. Osborne has settled it all at Heartland Park, Topeka in the D Sports Racing class. He's taken the national championship for the second year in a row, and the winner is with Mike Johnson.
Well, we have another Triple Crown winner, J.R. Osborne. Now, you made that race look really easy, but you had a very difficult week.
Yeah, guys, it's this been I feel like Joe, man. We've put in, this is our third motor. The store boys have been putting in 18-hour days, including myself. We're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, and just we haven't been able to put together more than 3 laps at a time without having something go wrong. And to put this whole race together, and the car was just spot on. I mean, it's better than last year. The competition was better. I got to give a big shout out to Wayne and Doug at Store and Richard at Real Tech and Goodyear Tires. And
okay, hey, we got to find out about that start. I mean, you wasted no time. It looked like you almost got by him at start finish. How did you get such a great jump?
You got to be looking at the flag guy. And I've been studying that flag guy all weekend. So when he twitched, I moved, and it was just enough. Mark leaned on me a little bit, but I got a good carbon fiber repair guy, so we were going to give it back.
All right, thank you. Chris?
I'm champ Mark Jaremko gets second 2 years in a row. Mark, wild start there when that green flag came down. JR got a great jump on you. What happened there?
Well, they got a little jump on me at the start, and then Tom Boots and JR got kind of sandwiched me in the middle, and we're kind of bouncing off of each other. So we got down to turn 1, and I wanted to make it to the end, so I gave up a little early, which I probably shouldn't have done. But you know, I didn't want to try to win anything in the first turn, so I'm getting too old, I guess.
You guys went with a little bit harder compound tire on the front than JR. Was that the decision that probably should have gone with what JR chose?
I don't know. They were just telling me the times, and it looks like I got a really good time. I was turning really good times. So I don't know if we were lacking in speed. I just think, I got held up a little at the beginning, and there was a gap, and I just couldn't make it back up.
Nice job with second place.
Well, Mark Jaremko laughs and says, getting too old. This man is not slow by any stretch of the imagination at all. 4 national championships to his credit. And once again, he was perfect this year. The only race he didn't win, this one today. He finished second. You look through the order there. That battle between 3rd and 4th, we'll have to see what happens there. But remember, great battles all around the racetrack. What about Kevin Allen at 6th? Great job once again for him.
Definitely hats off to his guys for building that car and competing up against these factory cars.
We see Richard Colburn there in 14th. He obviously had some problems, dropped back a little bit. Quintero, great runoffs for him. I know this is his first time here. He's been out of a car for a long time, so to finish in the top 20, not a bad thing. I'm sure it's not as good as he wanted it to be, not as good as this man's, but a great job anyway. Right now, J.R. Osborne circulating around the racetrack with a checkered flag, but there are more stories on pit lane. Mike?
Well, Tom Boots is laughing down here with Chris Farrell, so that's a good sign because, on the track it looked like it could have been a little iffy on that repass for 3rd place.
Yeah, it got a little close down there in turn 6, so we tried to give each other a little bit of room, but I think we bumped by maybe 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit, but I didn't mean to hit him, obviously, but, as they say, that's racing.
Well, congratulations. Over to Chris with the other half of that story.
Chris Farrell also smiling down here, which is a good thing. We were thinking maybe you guys were going to go toe-to-toe, but you came out and you hugged each other.
Oh, no. Tom and I are great buddies, and the Hoosier Tire store, George Dean racing car was just flying today, and, I kind of pulled Tom in from a long way back, and I had a great pass on the last lap going in the carousel on him, and we were probably no lower than a couple millimeters apart, and then going down into 6, I drove kind of a protective line, and, the brakes didn't work as good as we thought they would down there, and Tom lifted me up a little bit, but hey, this is fun. We're not being paid to do this. We pay to do this.
Good job. Good job.
That's an excellent point there, Dorsey. This is all for fun. Roger Penske isn't sitting in the grandstands to watch, so this was a good one.
And you could tell that both of those guys had exactly that, Brian. They had a fun day, and they enjoyed their time here at the Runoffs.
And it was J.R. Osborne who will take away the fondest memories from the day. He'll also take away some trophies, a Triple Crown and a second SCCA National Championship in D Sports Racing. For Mike Johnson, Chris Neville, Dorsey Schrader, I'm Brian Till. Thanks for joining us here on Speed for the SCCA National Championships. Make sure you catch all of them right here, only on Speed. So long, everyone.